everybody, what's going on? KDM Chris here. Wanted to say hello and good morning. It is 10:57 out here in beautiful California on a Saturday. And today I want to do a quick video of all things manufactured home. I keep getting a lot of questions, comments. I did a phone call while I was actually driving here this morning to my office. And it's, there's a lot of information out there about manufactured homes, but there's not a lot of information that kind of deep dives into it. Of course, I do a lot of I do all things manufactured home when it comes to loans. And I do post up videos, but I just figured I would do one all-inclusive because what I do is I take these videos. As clients reach out to me, I actually link it to them or I'll text it to them, and then it gives them an opportunity. So let's talk about manufactured home and home loans in general, right? So first off, what is a manufactured home? What is a mobile home? Because a lot of people get confused on this. So 1976, that's the key year, 1976. Anything pre-1976 is going to be considered a mobile home. It's a different type of a loan, and it just is viewed differently. Anything 1976 or newer is considered a manufactured home. Two big delineations. So here's the big one. And without getting, and there's a ton of videos that I've already done on this subject if you want to dig into pre versus, not pre-76. But I'm going to give you a quick overview. The way the bank looks at it, pre-1976, there were no standards, there was no government regulations, and those homes, as far as the bank is concerned, is a high-risk home. High-risk loans come with high-risk homes. So that means the interest rate is going to be sky high. It means your down payment is going to be sky high. And this is the bad part. Those homes depreciate. So you're not going to be able to get really any kind of a loan other than a really ugly chattel loan. An ugly chattel loan. Okay, now there's good chattel loans. So what is a chattel loan? Let's go ahead and dive into that real quick. Easiest way of looking at a chattel loan, is let's say you have a house. Let me give you different variations. What is real property? What is not real property? Real property is going to be a home that's permanently affixed onto land that you own, where you have the rights above and below, which is called the bundle of rights, all the way up to the heavens, all the way down to the core of earth. That is yours, permanently affixed. That is considered real property. If anything is a variant of that, it ends up not being real property. So if you have a manufactured home that's on land that you own that is not permanently affixed, meaning a permanent foundation, that is not real property. If you have a manufactured home that you own, but it's not on land that you own, that is not real property. Well, here's the thing. Anything pre-76, period, when it comes to a manufactured mobile home, is just immediately not real property. It doesn't matter if it's permanently affixed. It doesn't matter if it's on owned land. And the reason why is it is a depreciating asset, and that's the way the bank looks at it. So if you buy for $100,000 today, it will never be worth $100,000. It only gets cheaper from there on out. That's why I always recommend people do not buy anything pre-1976. Just don't do it. Unless, now let's talk about the unless. Sometimes people buy them because they're really, really cheap. They have the cash on hand, and they're viewing it as this is the last home I'll ever own. Keep in mind you're leaving your children with not much because it's going to depreciate, meaning it's going to lose value. Or some people will buy them because they're going to be great, fantastic rental properties at a very cheap price. But keep in mind, if you're an investor, you're typically trying to look for the trifecta. That's appreciation, depreciation, and also cash flow. So you want to make sure that if you buy for $100,000, it goes up in value over time. You want to make sure that you can write off that property, so that way you can, because there's only two ways to make money. You either make more of it or you save what you make. And then, of course, the third thing, cash flow, what you make every month on that property for renting out the property to somebody else. So pre-76, ugly loan, wouldn't recommend it. However, they are available pre-1976. 1976 and newer is considered a manufactured home. The reason why is there are now regulations. At 1976, they decided this. They got HUD involved and a whole bunch of really neat stuff. However, it still doesn't mean that every manufactured home is going to be treated always like a house. So now let's talk about it. What loans can you use with a manufactured home, 1976 or newer? Manufactured home, not mobile, manufactured. What loans can you use? Pretty much all of them. So you could do a hobby farm loan with a manufactured home as long as it meets requirements. You could do a VA, you could do USDA, you could do FHA, you could do conventional, as long as it meets the requirements of real property. So we already talked about that. So what is real property? It is a home that is permanently affixed to owned land where you have the full bundle of rights. Full bundle of rights. If any variation of that is different, then it is not real property. Therefore, it has to be a chattel loan. So if it's a manufactured home, permanently affixed, meaning permanent foundation, onto land that you own, you can do USDA, VA, FHA, conventional, and a whole myriad of other types of loans as well that you can do with that. Okay, and it's that's where it gets into like unique stuff. So like I said, a hobby farm loan. So if you want to do a hobby farm, I do those. That is also available. Now, if it's not permanently fixed, again, chattel, chattel, chattel. Now, what's a chattel loan 1976 and newer? Best way I can usually explain it is, again, it's a higher risk. Why is it a higher risk? Well, you don't own something, something isn't permanent, right? You don't get the full bundle of rights of a permanently fixed property on land that you own. So different reasons that you can do that. You want to buy a home in a manufactured home park on leased land. Okay, so you own the house, but it's not permanently fixed. That's considered higher risks. And as you know, if it's a higher risk, they typically will charge a little bit more in order to hedge that risk or risk mitigation, if you will. So the bank makes a little bit more in order to take that risk with you. So that's one option. I've seen it to where somebody will have a manufactured home on land that's not permanently affixed, but they own the land. Well, same thing. It's not real property. Now, ways that you can get around that. I just closed on a loan. We used a VA loan. So it was a manufactured home on land, not permanently affixed, but they were trying to ask the true value as if it were. At that point, if a manufactured home's on land not permanently affixed and you own it, it's just a land purchase. And a lot of people are very confused by that. Real estate agents that are the seller's agents like, oh, it's worth a ton of money. It's not permanently affixed. It's not worth anything. It's worth something, but it's not worth the same amount of money as a permanently affixed home that's real property. It's a significant difference. So what we did, we went in and said, hey, you're going to pay to actually permanently affix this property to the land, and we will be able to use the VA loan in order to purchase the property. Otherwise, we have to do a chattel loan, and that means nobody will ever buy your house for $750,000. Will not happen. So we actually did that in escrow. Did it in escrow, actually did the permanent, they strapped that one, which is, and there's different ways that you do a permanent foundation. Okay, so I feel like I got a little bit off topic, but that's all right. So 76 newer chattel loan is going to be if it's not real property, and that loan in specific, there's non-negotiable 5% down. You're always going to have 5% down, right? And then outside of 5% down, you're going to the interest rate is always going to be 1 to 2 percentage points over the going rate. Sometimes people get confused by that, so let me explain it. If the going rate, if you have an angel credit score, it's like an 800 perfect, and everything is lined up and right, and that credit score is 5% with perfect credit and everything's in your favor, well, guess what? That is considered the going rate for that day, and those rates change every day, 5 days a week, unless there's a holiday, right? Federal holiday. So from wherever that rate is, then you need to figure out what your rate is from that going rate. So you don't have great credit, so instead of 5%, you actually sit at 6% for where your credit is for that going rate. From there, you're going to add that 1 to 2 percentage points. So if you're at 6, 7, or 8% is typically going to be your going rate for that. Okay? I need to take these off. I have my meta glasses on, and they're talking to me while I'm talking to you guys. So the interest rate is going to be 1 to 2 percentage points over the going rate, and you can expect 5% down. Everything else is kind of negotiable. Typically, you can roll all of the closing costs into the loan, so that actually helps out a ton as well. So next, let's talk about the other types of really cool things to do with manufactured homes. Ground up construction. Ground up construction. I do a ton of ground up construction with manufactured homes all throughout the U.S. We do, I should say, with Patriot Pacific Financial. It's who I work with. And you can use VA, FHA, or conventional. You can do that on a one-time closed construction loan, or even investors. I have an investor product where if an investor comes in, they want to buy the land and build the manufactured home, it's 20% down. You don't have to make any payments until you sell the house. You pay back the bank, pay back the juice, and you keep the profit. So yeah, there's a lot of options there as well. So long story short, I want to just do a really quick deep dive. I guess you could say it's kind of an overview and a deep dive at the same time of everything manufactured. So let's recap. Okay, manufactured homes. We talked about 1976, newer and older. We talked about what's good and what's bad of pre-1976 and 1976 and newer. We talked about the different types of loan products for pre-1976 and newer. We talked about the different variations between those loan products, so FHA, VA, conventional, USDA versus chattel. We talked about what dictates a chattel and how it comes in. And then we talked about there's a lot of other variations of loans that you could definitely do with manufactured homes, even ground up construction with a manufactured home, build your dream home. Or even if you are buying a property that has a beat up home in a park, even let's say there's a 1917 manufactured, there's not 1964 manufactured house that's in a park, and they're selling it for like literally you can pick those things up for about 5 to 10,000. There are manufactured home companies that will come in, they will scrape it and put on a brand new manufactured home, and you're still getting it probably cheaper than if you went and bought that home at value in park. So lots of good stuff. Again, today, just trying to give you some good information on all things manufactured home. If you have questions, drop them down into the comments, or just give me a call. I put my number in here. I always find it entertaining when somebody's like, this guy's a bot. No, I'm me. I'm here. This is what I do. I'm a real person, and you're welcome to call me. I have people call me from all over the U.S. From watching my YouTube videos. You're welcome to call me, ask me questions, hit me up anytime. Just keep in mind, I always take Sundays off, but I work 6 days a week. It's Saturday, and I'm here at the office. So do great things. Appreciate you all. Have a good one, and we'll talk again soon.